Hello and welcome to Microsoft Hates Greg. My name is Greg Deckler, and today we're going to be talking about fabric billing, and specifically this five-part series by this Matthew Farrow, senior program manager at Microsoft. Um, and he's only gotten through part four, but already there's some disturbing information that has come to light in these in just the first four blog articles. So I'm kind of interested to see what part five does. Um, and specifically, I mean, as I go through this, it really seems like this is Microsoft's version of loan sharking, to be quite honest. And I'll get into why I think that. But the first article in here is what is a capacity model? Right. And so they go through and defines it. And really the funny thing is it's like, why do you need a five-part article about fabric billing, right? Right. Which, that in and of itself, I've complained about that, right? In terms of I created this Power BI licensing and pictures. It's very simple. There's no five-part blog article. It's just pictures with a little bit of explanatory text, right? And that's all you need to know to understand absolutely everything about Power BI's licensing, including free, Power BI Pro, on premises, embedded, premium, embed, right? Power BI Premium or Power BI was pretty. I mean, there were some nuances, right? But for the most part, it was extremely straightforward. But Matthew Farrell, and I do appreciate him. I think he's being a little intellectually dishonest in how he presents some of the information about Fabric. But I do appreciate him publishing this blog series and just exposing some of just the nefarious, I think ill-intentioned type of stuff that Microsoft's doing around their billing of Fabric. And this is, it's a five-part blog article. It doesn't even begin to scratch the surface, quite honestly, about what, all there is to know about Microsoft licensing and billing, right? Because, it doesn't get into one lake billing from what I can tell, like the separate storage, versus your CUs. This is only talking really about CUs. So it doesn't even get into that. It doesn't get into the double charging of CUs, right? When you use two different connectors for a source and destination, right? Which, we've seen some of that on Reddit. So there's a lot that's missing, quite honestly. And it's still a five-part blog article. But where you start to see some really interesting things is when you get into like part two. So part two basically is talking about history of Fabric, Power BI Premium capacity models, right? And hey, there's Gen 1 was Power BI Premium models, and now there's Gen 2, which are basically your Fabric, capacities and that sort of thing. And just understand that capacities, based pricing is generally designed to make the consumer overpay, right? That's what it's specifically designed to do, right? Because you're going to overpay for this capacity, even though you're not going to use all of it, right? And they try to, get around that with this bursting and smoothing. But when you really dig into the details, right, it really becomes more of the fact that, and go through and try to explain everything about how bursting and smoothing works, right? But here's where the rubber meets the road, how bursting and smoothing is applied. So basically, what they do is they break up the minute that your SKU comes up, everything's immediately, allocated into your CUs are allocated into 30-second spots or pots, what they call them, right? But here's the kicker, right? This second bullet. Anything you don't use in a pot for a specific time one is lost, right? That's passed, right? You can only borrow. So basically it says you can, however, borrow. What that should say is you can only borrow. You can never basically, get credit. So the best you can ever do in this scenario is get back to zero, right? You can never earn any credits, right? In terms of, for, that you didn't use some CUs in the past, so you have some credits for CUs, extra CUs that you use in the future. That's not how it works at all, right? You can only go into debt, right? This is the loan sharking part of this, right? Is you can only go into debt, and it's specifically designed to keep you in debt, right? Even if you get back to zero, the minute that you go past, your COs for that 30-second spot, right, you're back in debt again, right? So this is basically akin to loan sharking, in a software billing model, essentially. So it allows you to burst significantly over, since he's significantly overspend on CU, right? Any time of day. There's no safeguards, right? So if you get an F2 capacity, you could be burning CUs at an F8 and F16. You'd never know it until the bill comes, right? I mean, where are the safeguards around this? There are no safeguards. It's specifically designed for you to overpay, right? Or basically spin it up and pay for way more than what you thought you were going to pay for. So I mean, it's crazy to me in terms of that. But that's a so right now right there is a great omission, right? Okay, you're gonna not only gonna double charge you for CUs, but you can never get caught up and go ahead, right? You can only ever go into debt. So perfect loan, loan sharks would be proud of that arrangement, right? So then they get into this pay as you go versus a reservation, right? And you can immediately see in this table, right? It's like if you do pay as you go versus a reservation, it's almost a 70% upcharge, right? It's 68.11%, right? If you do the numbers on this, that's how much more pay as you go, costs you than a reservation, right? So that's a crazy upcharge, but that's how it works. Now, but even though you get a reservation, you still may pay as you go rates, right? And that's right here. Well, where is it? Uh, Reservations. Maybe it's in the fourth article. This is about scope reservation, optimum, blah, blah, blah. Let me look at the fourth one. Oh yeah, this is when you so yeah, that's where it is. So basically this is just goes through and tells you about reservations versus pay as you go and gives some examples, whatever. The next one is where the zinger is, right? So even though you have a reservation, you may pay as you go rates. So basically if you pause, right? If you pause, so if you're wondering why you charge pay G prices for a restart, even if you have a reserve capacity below it, essentially if you pause or restart your capacity, you're going to pay all that technical debt because they're ensuring that you're going to be in debt, right? They've set it up specifically so they know that you will always be in debt, right? In terms of CUs. So they make you pay that off at pay as you go rates even though you have a reservation. And if you'd left that reservation running and hadn't used it, you'd not pay as you go rates because you'd earn back all those credits and get back to zero in theory, right? Although you'll never get back to zero because Microsoft's, obviously set this up so you're always going to be somewhat in debt. So I think that's kind of shady and crappy. So one, they're always keeping you in debt, and then they're going to make sure that you pay off that debt at a higher rate than what you would otherwise, right? With a reservation. So, and then even better, we're not going to give you any tools whatsoever to even have a clue as to how far you're in debt, right? That's what this highlighted paragraph essentially says, right? We don't provide any kind of figure about how much you're in debt you're in or anything else. Just be assured because we've set it up this way that you're going to be in debt up to 50% to 100% of your daily pay rate, right? It's, it's insane. At least he admits it, right? At least he admits it. He doesn't come, it's just, I applaud him for writing this blog article, honestly, and exposing all of this. Even if he doesn't go into all of the just how bad this is for the consumer, right? I mean, he tries to spin it in the best way possible, but it's just not, right? It's just terrible in all respects. So I don't know. It seems like this is the loan shark version of software licensing. Always keep you in debt, make you always pay at a higher rate. You can never get ahead, right? That is the Microsoft Fabric licensing model, right? They are going to make you pay, far more than what you ever thought you would, when you sign up for Fabric, right? And it's intentional. So that's all I had for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.